You may have seen her all over your social media as the accountant dressed in pink, but behind the scenes, Rachel Harris is a force not to be reckoned with. Her firm has reached 1 million revenue in just 3 years' time. Amidst an accounting recruitment crisis, she has got a list of hundreds of brilliant accountants waiting to join her company. She was the youngest ever AAT board member, TEDx speaker, Accounting Excellence Award winner, and on top of all that, she's built her own bursary scheme to fund disadvantaged people to get into the accountancy profession. Every minute I spend with Rachel, my mind is blown more and more. I am filled to the brim with positive energy, and everything this woman says, you need to listen to and make notes. Welcome to Firm Up, where you'll get all the mindsets and practical tips to build an exceptional firm. Enjoy. Welcome, Rachel.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Lovely to have you. Tell me what I need to know about you as a child that is going to help me understand your journey into the accounting world.
Starting with a big one. I have some really cool shelves in my office now, in my shed quarters, where I film all my content. I have a picture of me at 7 on a little pink tricycle. So I do a lot of therapy, been to a lot of therapy. And I'm really trying to unpick who I am, how I got to here, untangling Christmas lights and working out which bits I want to keep and which is time to let go of. And so I've done a lot of this in therapy. I think important context to who I am now is that I was a free school meal kid, charity shop kid. We shopped at Aldi before it was cool to shop at Aldi. My mum walked around Aldi with a calculator, and if it was a penny out, she added the entire thing back up again. And she wrote in a book every time we spent money, reconciled her bank every single month, because money was that tight. And from a really young age, I remember looking away from the TV when adverts came on, because I didn't want my parents to think that I wanted stuff that they couldn't afford. So lots of money mindset issues. And so from a very young age, a huge desire to be different and escape that. And then second important bit of context is I'm an identical twin. My identical twin sister's disabled. And so I'm 10 minutes older. So apart from those 10 minutes, I've been a carer my whole life. And so both of those things together, I guess, are the two really key bits of context into who I am now. Both of those things bring out so many things in me that I love, but also bits that if I'd untangled all of the lights, I might not put them back in.
What do you think you're ready to let go of?
Money, mindset, attitude towards money, people with money. I was taught that people with money are bad, in quite a toxic way, not in a good way. So lots of the money conversations, and then also not being responsible for everyone in my life in a way that I think only people with very strong caring responsibilities from a very young age have instilled in them as well.
Do you think that gave you super independence looking after your sister?
Yeah, I feel like I've
independence you've become a grown up very early on.
Yeah, hugely. From remembering two people's PE kits, two people's packed lunch, it's someone else's responsibility to make sure that they're at their classes on time at the same time that you're at your classes on time as well. And so yeah, just a huge intrinsic sense of not only am I responsible for myself, I'm also responsible for somebody else as well as huge academic differences at the same time. So kids at school, quite mean. And they'd say things like, well, you're twins, why are you in top set and she's in bottom set? They'd say the same thing to her. And kids shine lights on those differences. So trying to, I guess in lots of ways, turn the brightness down on myself to lower the difference between the two has been something that I've brought with me into adult life, that I'm trying to shed layers of that skin.
And I can see you do that through the bright pink.
Yeah.
And then the money, as you were talking about that, reconciling a bank, do you think that impacted your profession in any way?
Yeah, I think control of money has been instilled from a really young age. I grew up north. I grew up in Carlisle. So it's a very different headspace. It's a very different sort of upbringing to growing up in a city or more affluent areas. And so being in control of money, I think had a huge impact, as well as like being quite naturally gifted with maths and loving people and relationships. And so, yeah, it probably had a much bigger impact than I've ever sort of like worked back before.
Yeah. What was your journey into the accounting world? What point did you go in?
Yeah, so I did A-levels and really was quite torn on university versus not university for a really long time. But because of my sister, I just felt like I couldn't leave home. And like where we were, where she was in her phase of life, felt like I couldn't leave. And so decided not to go to university. So I had a couple of unconditional offers and decided not to go. And so I took an apprenticeship in my local council. And I'd researched being an accountant. I'd Googled it. I'd taken personality type tests that say, you're an introvert, you like maths, be an accountant. And so I knew getting experience in finance was really, really difficult when you don't have any connections. Like my mum's a full-time parent, my dad's a welder, fabricator. Like I didn't have parents who knew people that worked in finance that could get me a job. And so I took an apprenticeship doing business admin in the finance department of my local council. So it was a business admin apprenticeship. And then I went to night school 3 times a week to do my AAT, and then worked in like pubs and clubs and pharmacies and Debenhams to top up my £3 something apprenticeship minimum wage. And then, from there, was collecting job titles throughout my career as fast as possible. So went from an apprentice to being a junior, being an accountant, to being a senior, trained at a top 75 practice, met my husband, fell in love, and then we started our own practice.
Nice. Why did you start your own practice?
Huge desire to change, to like disrupt the ecosystem that I, especially as a young female, felt like I was a part of.
Mm-hmm.
So at the top 75, there were no female partners. There was a woman that was being considered for partner, and then she went on maternity leave. And that was like really openly talked about. Lots of drinking culture that as a teetotal person, like didn't align with my lifestyle, but felt like I was missing out on a lot of opportunities. And like, that's where promotion conversations were being had, was at the social activities in non-transparent pay.
Yeah.
So like as someone that didn't go to university, I was having to take salaries like £5,000, £6,000, £7,000 lower than my counterparts, when actually I had 3 years more experience, more soft skills, more training, more confidence speaking to clients, but they had a degree in geography. And so it just didn't match up to me. And so there's just huge desire, not only to become like exceptional employers, but also to deliver service at the same standard as well. Because as a young, bright, enthusiastic, passionate, strong, soft skill member of staff, I felt like I was on a conveyor belt of accounts and tax returns, and I could do a job start to finish, and no senior member of staff would say to me, what does this client do? I could prepare a set of accounts and not even know what they do. How? Like, we're not accountants, we are storytellers. And it's our job to like reconcile what you know is going on in their life, their personal life, their business life, their long-term goals, short-term goals. We're storytellers. And it's our job to make sure that the numbers match what you can see and feel and touch in front of you. And so just huge desire to bring more enthusiasm, energy, passion into those conversations, because actually small business owners are so passionate about what they do it full time. And so it's our job to really increase their financial education.
Incredible. And you set up StriveX with your husband about 3 years ago, and you've just hit £1 million. Yeah.
Yes.
Amazing. It's just the speed at which you've done that is incredible. All of those experiences, all of those negative experiences from being in practice before you set up your business, you've almost created like the opposite of that, like the polar opposite, so far opposite. Is that why?
Yeah,
100%.
So this year we got announced as the top 30 SME employers in the country. So that's up against Aston Martin, Johnson & Johnson's. Like, we're competing with people of that size.
Yeah.
Teeny tiny StriveX is on that list. And I think it's so important. I think so many people misunderstand that not only are you, imagining your 7-year-old self and just being like, come on, we have to make this better, but also as somebody who, having access to financial education, changed my life.
Yeah.
As well as actually, especially post-pandemic, people care. People care where they're spending their money. People care that we're not outsourcing to other countries. They care that every single member of staff is employed in-house on payroll and that they're well and safe and happy. And so to see all of those changes and like us spending where it really matters, where competitors of our size maybe would be trying to keep it really lean, actually they have higher staff turnover, they have lower engagement rates, the net promoter scores aren't as high as ours. Like that's the difference that they don't see. So clients really care.
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe, I know to be true actually, because I did this, is you're very underestimated as a person with the things that you've achieved and the person that you are. Why do you think that? And I know you're underestimated because I underestimated you before I knew you, before I knew like the business that you built and the world that you'd created. Why do you think people underestimate you?
I let them. It's part of the magic, I think. I think also part of it, like in so many ways, I'm just living this version of my life that I could do my life 100 times over and this wouldn't happen again. And yeah, there's so many elements of like who I am now that childhood, that experience is so important too. As someone who would always wear baggy clothes that you'd grow into because they couldn't afford different ones, through like having choice in clothing, having choice in appearance, having the opportunity to express yourself in that way. And as a twin, there's a whole identity piece around that as well, especially when comparison as the twin, with one being disabled and one not, feeling very negative. So like you don't want to be compared and you feel unsure of your identity. Like in so many different avenues, my personal brand is like healing me as well. I think social media, people don't understand it. I think lots of people think it's accidental or just slapdash, just think of an idea and post it. They don't understand that like I'm an accountant with an MBA. I've got a master's in business from one of the top MBA universities in the country. We're filming today opposite from Warwick Business School, and that's where I did my interview to get a doctorate and was accepted and turned it down to run a business. Like at every step, people do underestimate you, but I think in some ways I feel like that's part of the charm.
And even when the estimation has been proven with things like a metric of you've built £1 million business, people will still find ways to shatter that. So how comfortable are you talking about money?
I'm not. And I think for me talking about it, the fact that I feel uncomfortable is the whole bloody point. Because if someone that was 2, 3, 4, 5 years ahead of me was saying the things and talking about the things that I am now, my experience would have been so different. I say the same when it comes to personal branding and lowering barriers to entry to financial education, showing more people what it's like behind the scenes of being an accountant or behind the scenes of running a business or a practice. I feel this huge sense of discomfort because I didn't grow up at a dining room table where we spoke about money. I grew up at a dining room table where we couldn't afford to eat what was on our plate and money was bad, as well as not understanding the opportunities that being an accountant can give you, as well as leading with your heart. I was raised, the job that I had before I became self-employed, I was managed by a very uncomfortable person who told me that I was never strong enough to lead a team. I didn't have enough balls to do it in that way, and that I was like soft and weak, and that I lived on this other planet like rainbows and unicorns and too many feelings. And so in so many ways, not only is the number important, but how you've done that is really important too. So I'm not paying my team the apprenticeship minimum wage. I'm not paying anyone minimum wage. They've got absolutely best-in-class benefits package that they couldn't get anywhere else. Their well-being, most importantly, is a top priority for us. The clients treat them with respect. We are like grassroots British business who are like making really positive decisions and really positive change. So whilst having £1 million practice is important, it's important to like do it with candor and do it with pride and do it with like intentionality behind the decision.
Yeah. And I want to just move on to, you mentioned you were teetotal, and you also are one of the most productive people I've ever known. And being able to build a business to £1 million in 3 years will tell anyone that.
Yeah.
Do those two things go hand in hand?
Yeah. Sobriety to me is like a superpower. To me, being teetotal isn't about not drinking. To me, it's about just loving and respecting yourself so much that you don't need to drink. But that's what it is to me. But by not drinking and having like increased self-awareness, increased mindfulness, increased awareness into like how my body feels and how well I feel at any time, really gives me the opportunity to floor it. I've learned over the last 3 years of doing events and conferences that if you leave at 9, nobody notices that you weren't there until 3. Literally nobody notices. I did 2.5 years of going to every single conference and nobody ever noticed that I wasn't at an after party. Ever. Because people are thinking about themselves, not you. So having the ability to get out before everybody else, like I'm inbox 0. I clear my inbox before everyone else is woken up. To me, that's sobriety, consistency, productivity, focusing more on what I want in a year's time than what I want right now. Because what I want right now is an extra 2 hours in bed. But I want that more.
Just talk me through your priorities at work. Because to have built a business that size, or to that size in that short space of time, what things are you prioritizing on a daily basis that has made this business work and grow so incredibly well?
Yeah, so from day one, we built an engine inside StriveX. And for want of a better word, because there's not really a word for what that engine is, we almost franchised the inside. So from day one, we had got working papers, we've got standard operating procedures, we've got process notes, we've got templates, we've got email templates for every single service that goes out of the business. So I'm not paying a member of staff to think about anything that I don't want them to think about. And what I gain in margin through them having templates, from them having, have you thought about this? From them having, can you add value here? From them having, have you applied core values here? That extra brain capacity that I gain just gives them the opportunity to create more value. I don't want profit back with that. I want more value, enhanced client experience. I want them to tell all of their friends, and that will grow the business. And so very, very early on, I'm very lucky to have married someone whose middle name should be Process Notes. We built this machine. So start to finish, every single touch point with a client is completely processed, streamlined, systemed, which is also incredible because as you scale, you can put things through, like a pasta machine, you can like put it through. And so any bit of feedback from, I became a sole trader to a limited company and you didn't tell me to check an IP register before I incorporated. Okay, let's tweak it. We can just add in one sentence into that one paragraph. And then from that point, every single client after you will receive a better experience. So not only are we feeding it back through, but also we have something tangible to go back to that person and say, this is what we've done with your feedback. So very early on, we built this machine, which meant that actually we're not like lots of practices having to stop, start, open, close, books, recruit, blah, blah, blah. So we built the machine. And then the two things that we needed to come into that machine were clients and staff. Enter social media. And so we, from day one, were creating content on social media. We started in one place with one purpose, on one platform, which was Instagram, to find new clients. And since then, that has evolved and scaled into an online audience of over 50,000 with 3 completely separate content pillars that are monetized with every single bit of content. You will not have seen a piece of my content that has not been completely intentional. And if you can't work out what the intention is behind it, I either haven't launched it yet, or it's so clever you haven't even realized what it is.
Mm-hmm. Or it's not meant for them. Yeah. Maybe, someone else is going to pay.
So really good example is if I recently posted a TikTok with a client who came off Love Island last year. I'm not posting that to attract new clients because the market of people who've been on Love Island is this big. I post that because millennial Gen Z accountants are desperate to have those clients. And those are the people that are joining my employee waiting list. And so you might, as a potential client, look at that and think, oh, that's not for me, because it's not for you. And so we specifically pitch to either business owners that can become clients into the practice or buy on-demand resources if they're not ready to do that, practice owners, where we can sell our online course, Practice Makes Perfect, which teaches people how to build, scale, and sell practice. And then the third content pillar is accounting students, who then become members of staff. And so we've now got an employee waiting list of 162 members of staff waiting to join the practice. And that means that I have data on how they found us. Are they passively or actively searching for a job? What department do they want to go in? What qualification are they studying? What's their notice period? What's their salary expectation? Like, I've got all of that data on everyone. We have a 100% retention rate from anyone who joins the practice from the waiting list, because they're prepared to wait. They're not actively looking for another job, but they'll come.
So to someone who's listening to this and thinking, oh my God, I need to build this machine inside of my business, because whilst I've got some clients that are great and I've got a business and I've got a team, it feels like everything's sticky taped together, and it feels like it's all about to fall apart at any given minute. And if I'm, as the business owner, not in that business, pulling all the pieces together, it's going to fall apart. Where would you tell them to start? What is the first thing you would say with this machine? Like, what's the most important part of that? What's the core?
I say don't build it, buy it.
Yeah.
Buy ours. We sell it.
Do you actually?
Yeah. Yes, so Practice Makes Perfect isn't off the shelf. Almost like you can buy Microsoft and put it into your laptop. You can buy Practice Makes Perfect and then put your branding in it. We don't want a franchise. We didn't want to get like tied into having this cohort of people. Like, we're scaling faster than we could ever franchise. And so we wanted to provide other accountants with the opportunity to do it without having to invest all of the time and trial and error that we did. And so everything from templates of how to speak to prospective clients, all of the way through to how do you actually prepare a VAT return, that if you get inspected by HMRC, you're like,
what's the most important process?
Core values.
Yeah.
At every touch point. And if me saying those two words gives you the heebie-jeebies and you think, I've just got imposter syndrome because I don't have core values, just take a deep breath, because you do. When we started the business, it was the two of us on our dining room table. Our first employee, I remember Googling, does my employer's liability insurance cover me for someone getting a bad back because they work at my dining room table? We had core values then. We just hadn't named them yet. Like, all of the things that we do and we teach now were all happening then. They were just intangible. So don't panic if I've just said core values and you're like, don't know what that is. Don't panic. You do have them.
Yes. And what do you do day to day that makes sure that those core values are used?
So our clients have to sign them. And if they break them, we disengage. Firstly. Secondly, we give the team the power to red flag clients. So in our CRM, we've created a custom field, which is a red flag toggle. Any member of staff, from the person who answers the phone and speaks to someone, all of the way through to James and I, or like senior managers who are going out and having meetings with clients, can red flag a client literally for any reason. And the vibe check is, if they, because I think a lot of businesses wait until there's something really explicit to disengage with a client. Like, they have to cross this line. For us, the line is, if you saw their name on your phone and you don't want to pick it up, they're not a client of ours. We offer high-level service at a high value with a very high-level team. I don't want anyone working somewhere where you get a weird feeling in your tummy when they answer the phone. And then we recruit on the same values. And so that makes everything easy, because the clients that are coming in are on the same playing field as the team. We do core value of the week. We spotlight them. So we try and make sure that every single team member, every single touch point is prioritizing them and like really being able to live and breathe the core values. And then finally, we fire on them too. So even if it was our like best performing member of staff, if they're not adhering to core values, like, that's an uncomfortable conversation that we need to have. Otherwise, they're pointless.
Marketing. Sorry to go back to this. I've just written about 5 things down I need to know more about. The day you started Instagram, the day you started your social media and decided that's how you were going to attract clients, why Instagram? Like, why did you pick that avenue? Talk me through like the attraction process, because a lot of people, I know a lot of accountants will listen to this and think, I need to bring in new clients, but it's so expensive. They're hard to find. Where on earth do I find them? It feels as though there's 1,001 other accountancy websites out there. So like, SEO is really tricky. Yep. So where does Instagram come into that? What does it do?
So firstly, we have a marketing course, because accountants are notoriously perfectionists that need to be able to like fully reconcile everything. which means if they start talking about doing their own marketing today, they'll start doing it in 5 years' time on the 1st of April. Like, that's what would happen. So for us, again, in terms of being misunderstood or underestimated, I think lots of people think it's accidental or it's just a random. This was me with the power of an MBA. And if you've ever met anyone that's done an MBA, you'd know about it. Like, they're just wired differently. And so I'm going through an MBA at the same time as running the business. And I'm starting to understand like market segmentation, customer profiling, where in the market do we sit? What's our competitor analysis? Like, what's our competitive advantage? And the reality is that in the middle of a global pandemic, small business owners aren't becoming small business owners in the normal sense. We're suddenly seeing people who've been furloughed, made redundant. They're like, they've got time to suddenly do all of the things that they'd never done before. And so we actually saw the average age of people become self-employed like massively shift down, because a lot of us who wouldn't normally become self-employed until you've got 5 years worth of savings suddenly had the time to start side hustles and start doing the stuff that normally you have to work up to a certain point to have that capacity. So not only were we seeing the average age of people shift down, we were also seeing where people are trying to find and consume content change as well. And so for us, a huge part of it, and this would be my top tip to anybody who wants to start marketing for their practice tomorrow, choose the platform that you consume content on. I'm a millennial. It's Instagram for me. I'm not quite TikTok. I'm not Facebook. I am Instagram. That's where I consume content. That's where my algorithm is cats and dogs. Like, that's the content that I consume. And I am a native user to that platform. And so I understand how I behave. I understand how my age demographic behaves on that platform. And so it felt incredibly easy for me to create content because I follow content creators. And so that would be my top tip. If you want to start creating content for your accounting practice today, start on the platform that feels the most comfortable to you. Because if you use it, you can flip it and do the other side of it, because you'll have a better understanding of what that feels like. So huge market segmentation, huge analysis of where the market was sitting, how those people were consuming content, how they were accessing it, and then also trying to just prioritize financial education.
Yeah. And just to start as well,
yeah,
I think a lot of accountancy firm owners will kind of think that social media is this world that they don't belong in, and that it has to be like a huge big black hole of information and you have to post every single day. Yeah, but just to get started would put you in the top 1% already,
yeah, definitely.
Even to just dip your toe in.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about Accountant She. Where did that come from? Why is it? It's an entirely different business, right?
Yep.
You are Accountant She, you embody Accountant She, it's your personal brand. So just tell me a little bit first about like fundamentally how they're different, but then also why it's so important for you to have a different entire personal brand that's separate to StriveX, your accountancy firm.
So StriveX is the accountancy practice.
Yeah.
Within the StriveX family, we have StriveX Accounting, StriveX Audit, StriveX Mortgages, StriveX HR, and StriveX Consulting. That's a whole group of companies. They are the practice. That's a holistic approach to professional services. And then we have Accountant She, which is my online personal brand. Over the last 3 years, that's migrated from me wanting to create content, to build a pipeline, to bring work into StriveX, all of the way through to Accountant She is now a 6-figure business on its own. I generate a huge amount of money through my personal brand, whether it's speaking events, content creation, brand ambassadorship work, as well as selling online courses like Practice Makes Perfect. I wanted them to be really separate for future diversification opportunities like we've done with StriveX. We knew we wanted to bring in more professional services. And as much as I wanted Accountant She and Mortgage Advisor, I can't think of that many puns, and so wanted them separate. SEO was really important. If you type in the word accountant into a search engine like Instagram, you've typed in 2/3 of my Instagram handle, and so I would normally come up first. Rather than typing in StriveX, no one's going to search for StriveX. I was also engaged at the time, and so I knew my name was going to change. I didn't want it to be my name. I didn't want to like work for a couple of years to build that personal brand and then sort of have to pivot and like re-SEO everything because my name had changed. And I always wanted it to be more than just me. Like, it's bigger than me. It's more important than me. This platform is financially educating people who can't afford to get access to that content in any other way, whether that's kids searching for careers advice during a pandemic where they can't speak to a careers advisor, understanding what being an accountant is, which 2 of our team did 3 years ago. Now they work for us. So they decided to become accountants because they were searching for that content, all of the way through to practice owners who get access into what our board meetings look like, who sits on our board, why we have a board, when there's just me and James as shareholders. Like, I always knew it was going to be more than me. So now we have the bursary scheme. But for 2023, we launched the first ever corporate bursary scheme. And again, now you see like my childhood, my upbringing. It was really important to me that having access to a certain level of funding shouldn't decide whether or not you can become an accountant. You should be able to become an accountant regardless of that. And so we launched the bursary scheme 2023, and 2024, we're launching 7 placement. So we've multiplied it by 7.
Wow.
We've got the bursary scheme sponsored. We've got like a whole group of training providers all coming together who are normally competing with each other for students, just coming together and donating places onto the course. And yeah, the short answer is I always wanted to be bigger than me and not about me.
Through this brand, there's something that I know about you is that you command opportunities. Like, you go for things that most, and I'm going to say women because it's, you know, like, us women that tend to hold back from like grabbing these things. You have more confidence and just impetus and guts to go for those things and grab them than anyone else I know. For example, the huge amount of speaking opportunities that you get, the amount of sponsorship opportunities, a lot of those have come to you because you're so brilliant at what you do, but because you've been and asked for them and got them and like pitched yourself. Where does that confidence come from to do that stuff?
I actually think it's the opposite. I don't think it's confidence. I think I've trained myself to turn imposter syndrome, like reverse engineered it and like just turned it the other way around and used it to like project me forward. So I try and collect no's. So every single year I'll be like, I want to be told no 100 times. Because actually, through my experience in life, I'll normally be told yes 4 or 5 times to every single no. And so if I can collect 100 no's, that's 500 or 600 yeses. Lots of people, specifically with women, specifically British people, are scared to ask for help. Love asking for help. I love saying to people, like, can we be friends, please? Yeah, I love asking people for help. I think it's a level of like vulnerability that people aren't quite used to, and they find it quite disarming. And then suddenly you've landed a sponsorship deal that was bigger than any salary that you earn in employment through your side hustle. And it's great. And again, I think it does feed into that level of like being misunderstood, and like my brand coming across as very, it's like people are disarmed by it and they're just like, yeah, sure. Well, you're quite nice. So I feel like I've been able to turn imposter syndrome into momentum and use that to push it forward. I don't think anyone will ever feel ready for anything in their life. And I operate on the basis that the person that you need to be when that time comes doesn't exist now, but it will be born between here and wherever you need it to be. And that's the basis that I offer my life on. Like, if I waited to ask for stuff that I felt ready for, like, I'd still be where I was in 2019. Like, you just have to push yourself.
When does social media, you work with some of the biggest companies in the industry, when does it get tough? What have been the points where it's felt like a bad thing to have a personal brand?
Boundaries are the most important thing ever. Yeah, when people don't have boundaries, or they swap something that maybe they shouldn't for money.
Yeah.
And through having financial conversations, through prioritizing people's financial well-being, and then fundamentally talking about their well-being, in the same way that we have with our practice, with like core values, North Star, like, where are you going? You can't expect people to get on a bus if they don't know where it's going. Like, where are you going? Really pushing them to have those difficult conversations with themselves can help them to put boundaries in place. Because if you're willing to swap your soul, you can get 6-figure sponsorship deals with brands that you're not aligned with. And so most of it is boundaries with content.
And is that the way that because you've recently hired business development manager, so someone to take away pricing, quoting, you've almost removed yourself from being needed within StriveX.
I'm not.
Not needed at all. And is that because you want to focus on accountancy or something different?
I want a family. Definitely want a family. And I think for both James and I, we both have always wanted a family. We wanted to get married and have a family. And I think we realised, like, we're engaged, we're in our 20s, like, we have a finite time to do this in a way that's going to be sustainable, to give our kids a very different life to the life that we had, which is important to me in terms of opportunity and, like, how that feels for them. And so removing both of ourselves from the practice was really important. I learned a lot from you in terms of kill the king. Like, how do we remove James Ashford from GoProposal was how do we remove James Harris from StriveX? And doing that so quickly because we wanted a family has given us the opportunities to, we now got 5 separate limited companies, HR, consulting, mortgages. Like, we have all of those because we removed ourselves from the practice from day one, not to lay on a beach in Barbados, but because through core values, internal controls, and building a machine, we can do that.
Where did you start? Like, if someone was just about to embark on this journey, say they've got a team of 20, they want to start now removing themselves so they don't have a full-time job to focus on whatever else they want to. Where would you tell them to start with which section of the business?
I think if you were really heavily involved in the practice, I think it would be quite easy to get to 20 without management. And management's the thing that's going to do it.
Yeah.
And I would tell them to recruit management on core values and nothing else.
And what does, so you
obviously technical skills, but like you prioritize. I can teach you tax. I can't teach you core values. So recruiting on soft skills and really embedding that into management layers is really, really important.
And when you say management, what if you've got like a team layout with, there's quite like pods?
Yep. So we have 17 members of staff. We have a 2-to-1 ratio. So for every 2 chargeable, we have 1 non-chargeable. And then within the chargeable teams, we're split into statutory year-end accounts team. And then we have business services, which is non-compliance. So bookkeeping, VAT, management accounts, advisory work as well. And so we have 2 managers in both of those teams, as well as head of compliance and business development manager.
What do your team think about the accountancy brand?
I love it. Again, lots of them became accountants because they found it. One of them literally like can tell me where she was. Like, she was sat in a car waiting for a boyfriend, and she was on YouTube searching like, how do I get a job in accounting with no experience? Or like, what does an accounting do? What does an accountant do? Yeah, they love it. And a question that I get a lot on social media, especially with a lot of the behind the scenes stuff that we do, is how do you get your team involved in content? And for us, content is the ecosystem. So we have this generation of accountants that are accountants because of my content, who are joining employee waiting lists where they know they're competing, then making it into the team, and then thinking, I have a responsibility to those that come after me to create more content, to create more accountants, to create more opportunity for those who come next. And so some of them, even if they feel uncomfortable, like almost see it now as a rite of passage to push past how uncomfortable they feel making content, because they understand how much they were impacted by it themselves. And so it's created this sort of like, ecosystem of content creation and storytelling. And we've got accountants who were EasyJet air hostesses, hairdressers, worked in Waitrose the week before they became accountants. And through our content, through lowering the barriers that you don't have to have come from a certain place or gone to a certain school or done accounting and finance at university to become an accountant, we are inspiring this new generation of like really soft skill driven, passionate, incredible accountants.
What is your biggest challenge right now? Where are you struggling? Because all these things, it sounds like you are on top of the world and everything is just incredibly smooth, running swimmingly. The money's flowing, the clients are coming, the team's going. There must be challenges.
Yeah. When I spoke about hitting £1 million, some people don't like that. People really don't like that. Yeah. And for me, young Rachel, or the Rachels that come after me, is more important than me feeling uncomfortable. But yeah, some people just really don't. It just makes me feel really angry. And as someone who like had to fight through feelings, and off that £1 million practice, I spent a significant chunk of that in therapy. And like, as someone who's gone through that journey, to now be like, I have to talk about this because I feel like this because people are just not talking about it, especially young females are not talking about it. As someone who's pushed through all of that to talk about it, to then get negative comments, hateful comments, public or private, like whether it's in a DM or if it's in front of everybody, is hard. But I think through having great friends and having great self-worth, I've understood that. Because there's a couple of different elements to it. So not only is StriveX worth £1 million, I am also a millionaire. So as well as StriveX being worth £1 million, with all of the limited companies, I own a portfolio of rental properties. I'm a millionaire too. And it makes people really angry. And I think through understanding what's triggering people and understanding that I could turn the volume down for them, I've learned through doing that I'll still be a millionaire, whether or not I tell them that I am or I'm not. So like, I need to be okay with that. And that this is all part of a bigger problem of not speaking about it. So, yeah. But I would be lying if I said it wasn't hard, because I feel uncomfortable for the same reasons that they feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It just comes from a different place.
Because when the hate comes, it's normally from a place of people trying to pull you back down.
Yeah.
People kind of going, no, you shouldn't be there. Like everything that society's told me about a young female business owner says that you shouldn't have achieved that. So I'm just going to try and make sure you get back in your place.
And I think one of the most profound things that I have learned is, as someone that was raised that like people with money are bad, is that money is a way to amplify who you are as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're a bad person with money, money is bad. But actually, if you're a great person, money is great. And I can launch bursary schemes and fund people to become accountants and create content that changes people's lives and encourage other people to join the industry and to like hold the door for people that come after me. I'm not wearing a Rolex in my Porsche, posting about it on LinkedIn. I'm changing it. And so money is a way of extending who you are as a person. And I'm a really good person.
Yes, you are.
I have a funny story on people that get really angry about it. So in what I like to call the accounting arena of LinkedIn, people stalk each other on Companies House.
Okay.
And lots of accountants play games of like who's going to file their accounts first. So lots of us, because we're accountants, align our tax year with our year end. So lots of us have the same year end, which is the 31st of March. We're the 31st of March. Loads of accountants will leave filing their accounts until the day or the week that they're due, which would be at the end of the year. Me and James, again, I feel like, you know, go to the hairdresser with the good hair, right? We file our accounts on the 1st of April. To show clients, to show other people, like, come look at ours, it's fine. And we do funny things in our accounts, which makes people really angry. So I'll be on LinkedIn saying StriveX is worth £1 million. And people will say, I've looked at your balance sheet and this is embarrassing. And we do funny things like I feel like there's nerdy accountants listening to this it will blow their brain. We prepare the accounts, we prepare the tax return, and we pay the tax to HMRC on the 31st of March. And then we file our accounts. So it massively reduces our balance sheet by the VAT, the PAYE, and the corporation tax on the last day of the year. And then we file the accounts. Then I talk about being a millionaire, and people are really angry. So
because is it almost like you've made it as small as possible?
Yeah. Mainly so that we're all accountants, right? We're all twitching. So you can look at somebody's liabilities on their balance sheet and work out how much profit they've made as a result of that. And so I'm married to a great accountant who loves to play mind games with other accountants. Just fun, nerdy story.
Yeah, definitely. I've written down everything you touch turns to gold, whether that be a brand ambassadorship opportunity, whether it be property development, whether it be mortgage advice, whether it be team wait lists. Why do you think that is?
Because you don't become poor by giving. I'm a good person with good values, doing great things. And I think lots of people are scared to give stuff away in fear that it will take something away from them. But through all of the stories we've told today from where I come from, I've learned that by giving to other people, you grow yourself.
Yeah.
I feel like my business and my brand and who I am as a person is proof.
What's on your 2024 vision board?
Oh boy.
And before you get into that, just give me a rundown of the vision board practice, because honestly, I remember the first day that I properly met you. I'd met you a couple of times before, and the first time I properly met you, we were entering a house in the Lake District that we were about to spend 5 days, like literally sat next to each other every second of every day. And I first met you and you were like, told me about the concept of collecting no's. You got open this beautiful laptop covered in pictures of pink women dressed in
Cats.
cats and everything. And I was like, who the hell is this woman? And just talk us through that vision board practice, because that's something you see every single day. And you have achieved a lot of those goals. Since we just met like 8 months ago, you've achieved a lot of those things that you were setting out to. So what does the vision board practice look like, and what's on the vision board for 2024?
Yes, I have a vision board, which I set as my desktop background every single year. And it's my way of affirming what I'm going to do that day to achieve what I want to achieve that year. I treat it basically like a walk of shame. Like every day, I'm just like, well, you have not done that, so you've not worked hard enough. You got up at 5 today, we'll get up at 4 tomorrow, because we need to get it done. I think a lot of the like really hyper-focused productivity, a lot of the, I clear my inbox before everybody else gets up, so that by the time everyone else gets up, I'm already 4 steps ahead of them, achieving the big stuff when everyone else is just spending 9 to 5 clearing their inbox. And so I genuinely treat it as like a walk of shame. Like I want it to be there, to be like every single day, understand what you can do to get yourself 1 step closer. And so each year, as I'm going throughout the year, like I just have a note on my phone of things that I want to do the year after. And I sit with a Toblerone in one hand and my laptop in the other at some point between Christmas and New Year. And I pull pictures together of, some of it is in 10 years' time, Rachel, it's the house that I want, the car that I want, the family that I want. And some of it is really tangible stuff that I want to do in the next 12 months. And as an example of like affirming it, every single call that I have, doesn't matter if it's a prospective client, if it's a brand, if it's a random person that I meet at a networking event, any conversation that I have in person or online, before the end of the conversation, I will work out which thing on my vision board that person could get me 1 step closer to doing. And I explicitly say to them, these are my long-term goals. Is there anything that you think you could do to help me? And people are so bloody flattered that you've asked them. I never get asked for help. There's so much I can do to help people. I never get asked. It's flattering. It means that they admire you, that they value your opinion, that you've come across as quite open. And so every single person I speak to, I'll say like, what do you think you might be able to do? The person who's editing this podcast has already agreed to have my digital marketing exec for work experience because I asked them. He said, yeah. Like every single thing is an opportunity. Accounting excellence was on it this year. PQ was on it this year.
And you won those awards?
Won them. Yeah.
Breakout.
Yeah, just having that affirmation in your head, you know, like every single time you get a marketing email from Accounting Excellence, you're like, oh no, I actually do have to apply to that because it is on the board. And then as I go throughout the year, I replace those pictures with pictures of me with them. So if it's me doing a BBC News article, I'll take down BBC News and put a picture of the article. If it's me, if it's the Accounting Excellence Award, I'll take it off and put a picture of me holding it in a great dress.
Yeah.
And so, I literally use it as a way to tick them off and replace them. And then, oh my gosh, in 2024, I have huge goals for the online brand and like how we decide to continue storytelling in a way that other people like haven't seen before, in like a really heightened level and standard of storytelling, all of the way through to people that I want to meet, to people that want to become clients, to people that I want to become my friends, like Grace Beverley. I literally have a picture of Grace Beverley on my vision board, and just like things like that, right? Like that's cringy, that's embarrassing. I literally have a picture of another female business owner on my vision board because I want her to be a client and I want her to be my friend. But if in some universe she heard that, she'd be like, love that for you. Like, who is this person? Like, how are you on a podcast talking about having a literal like head to toe picture of me on your vision board. And so I just continuing with the theme of like being underestimated. There's something about being so vulnerable that's like endearing, that people just want to help you. And so I literally have a picture of me in a pink suit superimposed on the lineup of Dragon's Den. Like I've put myself over Deborah Meaden and I've just got myself on there, and
we laugh. You come 2 years' time and you will be on that.
Like, remember that time I manifested?
Yeah, you manifested your way into Dragon.
And it's stuff like that, right? It's stuff like Firm Up Live. Jake Humphries, who is a TV presenter, was there and he literally was like airdropped in, airdropped out, did the appearance, and that was it. And I'm there to James Ashford, like, if he speaks to anyone from the time he lands here to the time he gets on the stage, I need you to make sure it's me. And he's like,
okay,
right, sure, yeah. And so I had 3 flights of stairs with Jake Humphrey. And in those 3 flights of stairs, I told him every single bloody thing that was on my vision board and said, how do you think you can help me get there? And now we're Instagram friends. We follow each other on Instagram. I DM him and say, like, this is what I'm pitching to a production company. What do you think? What production company should I go for? What wording should I use? Like, how can you help this come to life? And that is at the same time that everyone else was just eating their buffet. I'm there like, hello, like, please can you help me? And so I just, in order to get to the places that other people aren't, you have to do the stuff that they're not prepared to do. And for me, that's like being a bit embarrassing, but in a way that is so open and honest and endearing and like just who I am as a person.
It's amazing. I truly believe that all the things we want are just on that other side of not being scared to let other people see us trying.
Yeah.
People are so scared to let people see them try. And this is why a lot of people, I think, don't start social media, because the first 100 times you post, the first to get those first, I don't know how many thousand followers is going to make you satisfied. You are having to show the world you are trying, and nothing is happening for a long time. And it is shameful and embarrassing. It isn't, but inside you, it feels shameful. Knowing that your ex is going to see it, knowing that a friend from school that you didn't speak to anymore is probably going to see it, it's going to get sent into a group chat. And so to get over those things and just go, that's why I'm going to go for it, as opposed to why I'm going to let it hold me back.
So I have a theory on, I feel like one of the coolest bits of being an accountant is you get to like see inside the businesses, and even things as simple as like personality types that do well versus ones that feel a bit chaotic. People that are open to receiving advice versus people that aren't. And I used to run at a very high level at school. And I got to a point maybe like 2 years ago that I realised some of the people, Lucy Cohen, the person who sits on our board, some of the literally most influential people in my life that like on a personal level, they would fill seats on my board if I had like a Rachel board meeting, which is on the vision board. Of just like, this is my life, what are we doing? I realised that the people that had the most influential positions in my life also had a background in elite sport. And for ages I was like, what is it? What is it? No, we were not born to build a 5-a-side football team. What is it? And it's coachability. It's, as a kid, I'd get up before all of my friends were up to run like 5 miles. When no one was watching. Delayed gratification. I'd have coaches that would like video me running, make me watch it back and be like, do you see how terrible you are? And so you are open to receiving feedback. You are open to doing the stuff when no one is looking for the one moment in time where people have eyes on you. And for me, that element of like coachability is huge. And it was like, I remember where I was when I worked it out that it's coachability. So from the person who sits on our board to a very close friend and like huge inspiration to me, Lucy, and then me, I realised that the direct correlation between a lot of it is you can take feedback. You can do it when no one's watching. You don't actually take yourself that seriously. And in order to do stuff better than anyone else, you have to work harder than everybody else. Like running isn't a talent. Running is just being really stubborn and running really fast. And so that element of coachability, I think, has played a huge role in productivity, getting up at 5 a.m, sharing my schedules to let people see like this wasn't done overnight. I'm not lucky. I work really hard.
Yeah. And just before we go, something really important that I've noted about you is you have something a lot of other accountants, in particular accountancy business owners, don't have, which is an abundance mindset. And I know this because something you said to me once, which was I think you were having to pay for something that was like maybe a few £100 a month. And your response wasn't, let's see what else we can cancel, let's see what we can get down, or, oh, that's really expensive. It was, I'm just going to have to do more work. I'm just going to have to work harder. I'm just going to have to bring in more business then.
That's Rachel. That's Rachel being like, I'm just going to have to run faster.
Yeah, exactly. And it's abundance mindset at the heart of it all, isn't it? It's not, what can we scale back to afford this? It's, right, we have to afford this. What do I now need to grow to make sure that we can afford it? Where does that come from? And how do you think it's impacted? Because I can see it, but how do you think it's impacted who you are?
So it's not come from my upbringing, because we were in Aldi with a calculator, having Titan bars when all of my mates had Mars bars. It's not come from my upbringing. And I really had to train that, like, northern bad money mindset. If you cut me open, gravy comes out. Like, that's who I am as a person. And I really had to teach that out of myself. And James played a huge part in that. Like, I would buy something really cheap and end up spending 3 times more money replacing, like shoes, replacing them because they're just not good. Whereas James would be like, okay, like, we just need to unpick this. But then also, again, being an accountant, we get to see inside it. We get to see inside of the businesses that work and inside of the businesses that don't. And the people who are holding on to pence are ignoring pounds. Mm-hmm. Like, that is the reality. And so when I tell you, the internal controls inside our business are unlike any I've ever seen before. Any. And I think if I ever write a book, that's what I'll write about. I've not seen any business run like ours. Stuart Hurst from Accounts and Legal is a non-exec board member of our board. And the first board, I wish I'd recorded it, the first board meeting he came to, he was like, bloody hell. He literally was like, I've not ever seen anything like this. And we're half the size of Accounts and Legal. The internal controls that we have are mad. But those internal controls come from every single year. We do a quality of life audit of where do we want our life to be. And when you asked about priorities earlier, my marriage is always the first. And everything else comes afterwards. Like, just with the, you don't become poor by giving, like, marriage isn't choosing someone once, it's choosing them every single day. And so marriage comes first. Quality of life comes first. I have a number. If my salary drops below that number, we're doing that a couple of months in a row. What are we doing? Because that's not money. That's compensation for what it takes to do this for an extended period of time. And so every single year we do a quality of life audit, which is where do we want our life to be in a year's time. The first year we were like, do you think we could shop at M&S? Not Asda. And now it's, okay, what excess do we need in our life to be able to have a nanny when we have children? Because I love working. And for me, the ultimate form of success is having choices. And so I don't know if I want a nanny. I don't know if I want to work, but I know I want the choice. And so that looks different for us now. But all of those financial controls come from quality of life. And so every single month, I understand what turnover we need to hit, what profit we need to hit in order to do that. But then that also gives me permission to spend money in order to get there too.
You're incredible. Thank you so much, Rachel.
Thank you for having me.